Jen, and I'm part of the Vancouver Startup Week team. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that we're grateful to be virtually gathered on Indigenous land, regardless of where you're joining us from. At my home here in Vancouver, I'm grateful to be on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish peoples. I'm privileged to live, work, and play on these lands. I'd like to thank you for joining us for VSW 2021, and welcome to today's session, The Power of Sales and Marketing, Automation, and Digital Transformation, hosted by our sponsor, HubSpot for Startups. This session is part of the VSW Founder Track and is proudly supported by Sage Accounting. Sage knows you didn't start your business to become an accountant, and their platform helps keep your business organized and running smoothly. Track your cash flow, send out invoices, and get paid quickly. Be sure to visit the Sage Accounting booth to access free guides and templates for starting your business finances right away. Plus, get an exclusive VSW discount if you're ready to switch from Excel. I also do want to take a moment to thank HubSpot for Startups for being our event partner and also a sponsor. VSW can't happen without the continuous support from our community sponsors. During today's session, I do want to remind everyone to post your questions in the Q&A within the Whova platform, and we will ask them at the end of the session. Be sure to upvote your questions to make sure that we can ask them all in order as well. Without further ado, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Emily, our speaker, and over to you, Emily.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Well, welcome everyone. Really glad to be joining all of you here today. So this session is powered and brought to you by HubSpot for Startups. I have my colleague Kelsey here, who's going to help answer some of the questions you may have throughout the session, and we'll have some time at the end of the session to answer, to make sure your questions will get answered. And without further ado, let's get into it. So for those of you who may not be familiar with Hubsoft Startups, we partner closely with accelerators, incubators, VCs, and other investors alike around the world to accelerate growth for their startups. We have a growing network of more than 3,000 partners. And if you are if you're affiliated with an accelerator, incubator, or VC, chances are they might already be part of our partner network. And some of the things that we provide as part of our program is that we also provide exclusive educational sessions and webinar opportunities focused on building sales, marketing, and growth strategies for startups in today's economy, access to over 300 software integrations, and up to 90% off our software. And you can visit HubSpot Startups at hubspot.com/startups. To redeem your discount, depending on who your partner is. So a little bit about myself, just before jumping into today's agenda. I'm currently leading Hubsoft Startups, partnerships and growth for the program based in New York, and helping startups grow through mentorship. My background actually started in financial industry and venture capital. I was helping early stage startups raise capital when I realized that no matter how much money you invest in a startup, if they don't have a predictable way to grow and scale their revenue, they'll be out of business. So I learned a lot about marketing and everything I needed to know to scale the accelerator I was managing at the time, as well as the startups we were incubating. So through that process, I also became a startup advisor and mentor. And this is a combination of my own operating experience and insights I gained from HubSpot. In terms of today's agenda, we're going to walk through a few different things here. Firstly, we need to understand what inbound is all about and why it matters to sales automation. We're going to talk about what sales automation is and how your sales team can be saving time so they can focus on what really matters the most. Then we'll talk about trigger events and capitalizing on hot leads, how to use different trigger events and what are they. Then we'll walk through what marketing automation is and understand how to create a workflow or how automation can be created in HubSpot. And finally, I'll open it up to questions at the end for those of you who may have questions. Without further ado, let's get into it. So first of all, let's talk a little more about inbound first. Inbound marketing, you might have heard of it before, or you may have no idea what it is, and you want to learn a little more about it, or you're unfamiliar with it. So HubSpot actually coined the term inbound marketing, and what inbound marketing really means is creating a strategy where you bring leads to you and your customers are coming to you organically. They already seen you as an additive or help to their businesses, their lives. And what this means is that for your business, these leads would convert at a much higher rate. These are much happier customers that convert faster because they're better educated on your service or products. What you can get from today's session combined with our software is really a platform that's going to help you configure a strategy for bringing in and closing these inbound leads organically. And if you don't have an automated email marketing process set up, you're probably missing out on some major opportunities to nurture and engage your contacts. And once these inbound leads come in, you also want to make sure that you have a process in place to keep nurturing and converting them through an automated sales process. So, and I assume a question for you guys, do you already have sales automation in place? And, if you can just quickly think through, like in your day-to-day right now, do you have some sort of like automation set up? And a lot of people have asked us this question, like, what is it? What is really sales automation? And as you can guess from the name of it, right, by definition, a sales automation is really the process of using software to automate manual, time-consuming sales tasks. One of the most common things we measure in sales is sales productivity, right? A recent study also indicates that good salespeople today actually spend less than a third of their time selling, while increasingly more time is spent managing various admin tasks surrounding sales and demand generation. So whether you're a salesperson, sales executive, in a customer facing role, or you're the founder yourself in a growing business or startup, I'm certain we can all agree on the direct and collateral damage when done on salespeople when we aren't selling. So the aim here is to really standardize and automate your sales process as much as possible. First of all, it saves you time. Secondly, as a small business or startup, it gives you the ability to demonstrate scale that just typically have not been possible for small businesses in the past. If you're able to leverage automation. And with the time you're freeing up from automation, it really allows you to execute and engage with your most important asset, which is your prospects or customer. So have you ever lost a deal because you forgot to follow up, spend precious minutes adding opportunities or leads to your CRM? Have you overlooked an issue in your sales process for a dangerously long time? Call leads in alphabetical order rather than best fit? Have you gone back and forth with a prospect just trying to figure out a good time to meet? Maybe waste a half an hour digging through your files to find a specific deck or customer testimonial you needed. So I'm sure you can relate at least one or maybe all of the scenarios here, or maybe you're living them right now. Then this is why you need sales automation, because it wastes a lot of time, right? Sales automation really benefits your business sales team and bottom line in so many ways. And sometimes doesn't always have to be the sales team. It could just be one specific salesperson or two people who want to improve the accuracy and accelerate your sales process. Nothing really kills your deal like the time, right? So the key to maximizing the productivity is to really execute and optimize these processes that really enable you to dedicate more energy and time to focus on the high value actions that make sales happening. So the question here is, how can we leverage automation to help with sales? So there are a few different ways sales automation can help your startup. First is rep specific tools. Sales reps have a lot of daily responsibilities, right? Or as a startup founder yourself, you know that you have, sometimes you're doing sales, sometimes you're doing marketing, and then all of a sudden you're doing something completely different. These aspects of sales automation will particularly help you and your reps perform better. This doesn't just mean sales reps. Again, it could mean anyone in a sales role or responsible for a customer facing role. If you know someone that's responsible for the customer facing aspect of your business. This boils down to your understanding of where your people are wasting their time and where the efficiency can be achieved, as well as tools that can help them automate their processes. Second is business-wide automation. Does marketing have an easy way to communicate with sales? The purpose of marketing is to generate demand and pass it on to sales. But with the transition and handoff from marketing to sales, one of the biggest pieces of feedback we've been consistently getting from startups is that the sales team don't understand why certain deals are being passed on to them from marketing, or marketing just isn't happy with how sales isn't following up with the deals that they passed on to. So you want to automate notifications when deals stall out with relevant trigger events, so nothing falls through the cracks. Thirdly is knowing when to strike. You want to keep track of when it's an important and right time to reach out to your prospects based on the data you've collected at the right time and capitalize on these trigger events. And finally, that's about making it easy for prospects and customers to get in touch with you, with the sales team, and start the sales process when they are ready to convert and buy. So, and let's start with sales specific automation tools. The purpose of these is, again, to help them spend their time where it matters most. It boils down to where you or your salespeople should be prioritizing your time. Remember, your team's sales process is pretty much an important asset. You've already built it so that you can have an iterative process for everyone to follow once you expand and scale up your team. So here's an example of getting insights into someone engaging with a prospecting email. What you're seeing here is a tracked email that has been sent to a prospect, right? This tells me that the prospect opened an email 14 times, clicked on the link 6 times. This is telling me a whole story. It's telling me that it's obviously important to them, it resonates with them, and they might have shared it multiple times internally with the amount of opens and clicks. One of the biggest pieces of feedback salespeople have is that they're reaching out to so many people via email, but just don't know who's opening that email. Then they follow up with a second email saying, hey, did you get my email? I'm checking to see if you're interested. What if you want to send multiple emails to a prospect in a role, assuming they don't answer the first one? So this types of information really takes the guesswork out of the equation, giving you a whole picture of who's engaging and who isn't with your outreach. This tells me a very different story to another email, which says it's been opened 0 times and with no clicks. If I send that email to a prospect, assuming the recipient's email address is correct, but it's been opened 0 times. So there are a few different things I would need to consider. First is your subject line, which may be very spammy sometimes. So it could have gone straight into the spam folder without being eyeballed at all. Second is perhaps the person just didn't get to it yet. Third is your subject, is your content. That just doesn't resonate with them. They might have opened it once, never gone back to it ever since. They might have opened it once, read it, and moved on. So to increase response rates, try to also personalize 30 to 50% of the content, but not more than that. Our data actually shows there are diminishing returns beyond this point. And this tells me that this person opened the email for the first time at 11:26 a.m. Perhaps that's a great time to give that person a call, schedule a proper meeting or a follow-up call. So the process of scheduling a conversation with a prospect can sometimes feel like a tennis rally, right? You send over one date and time, they return with a different date and time. You send over another one. Not only does this back and forth kills your deal's momentum, but it's also inefficient. It's just not the best way to figure out a time. I can't remember the number of times I've gone back and forth just trying to nail down a meeting. With an appointment and meeting scheduling tool, you can actually go right from, hey, you want to connect on Monday at 11 a.m. to just getting a slot on the calendar. All you have to do is just shoot the prospect a link to your schedule. They can see your entire calendar and choose any open time that works for them according to their respective time zone. I can also set how much buffer time I want to give between each meeting to ensure I'm not overbooked. The next thing I can do with this online calendar from HubSpot is to use it to qualify with a set of predetermined questions when someone books a meeting with me. So in my specific case, I'm asking them for their first name, last name, email address, and what they would like me to answer on a call, so I can set an agenda for a call or come to the meeting prepared. You could ask 5 questions or 10 questions, depending on the nature of the meeting and your role. It depends on what type of sales process you want to lead with and what type of organization you are. So we all know the amazing benefits of having a centralized CRM in place. However, that's conditional to putting information into the CRM. If you don't put any information into the CRM, you don't get anything out of it. Getting a prospect's voicemail, log the attempt in your CRM, call 2 days later and reach them, log that conversation in your CRM, send them a follow-up email again, log the message in your CRM. You're probably just getting tired hearing all of that, but automating deal related activity is a no-brainer. So look for a tool that will actually record your calls, meetings, and emails for you. In this case, you can see here, not only it's automatically logging information, but it's also tracking it, right? You can choose to track it or not. For sending personal emails, you can uncheck the boxes and stop tracking these. And this way you have data on when prospects open your email, click on the links you send, or download the documents you attach to the message. Prospecting, meeting confirmation, follow-up emails, they usually don't and should not vary much. So try to also avoid copying and pasting messages, or even less efficiently typing out the same thing over and over again by creating email templates. All you have to do is to build out master versions of the emails you regularly send to prospects or customers, then save them as templates and populate them as you go. So if you're typing out the same email that you would normally do with all of your prospects, and all you have to do is just populate that template by clicking that template button here. And you can also quickly customize them to the specific recipient and situation before sending them off. And the templates feature here allows you to add personalization tokens. So details like the prospect's name, company, and job title are filled in automatically. Alternatively, you can also build out a sequence, which is a whole sequence of events, tasks, or emails, one of the other. You can build out a sequence of emails, which goes first email, second email, and third email with breaks in between. And we'll get into that later. But you could be attaching documents if you feel like storing a lot of presentation decks and documents on your computer and manually adding them in. You could save them as documents and automatically attach them to attract email by using the documents button. This way you can gather information on the recipient, such as how long the document has been viewed, specific pages that are being viewed the most. So that way you know what kind of information they're most interested in. Obviously, these are really small things, but again, they can add up when you're prospecting for maybe 30, 50, 100, or 500 leads every week or month. So now let's talk about trigger events. Timing's everything, right? If you contact a prospect right after they buy an expensive competitive product, they're not going to buy. But if you find out that they're in the market for a new vendor, you can reach out to your prospect before they begin researching, which really ensures your message will be received with much more interest. So a trigger event, by definition, is an occurrence that creates an opening for a sales opportunity. Sales and marketing automation workflows use trigger events to enable small organizations to scale customer interactions. And when thinking about different trigger events, you should be thinking about your own respective startup or organization and the ideal persona you're trying to get in front of. Most trigger events aren't as obvious as a tweet or LinkedIn post asking or announcing, hey, I'm looking for a new product for XYZ purpose. Any thoughts or suggestions? So you will need to tune into the right channels to detect this sometimes blatant, sometimes subtle shift, but that can warm up a cold outreach. So your trigger events really pertain to who you're selling to and what your buyer persona is like. For example, do you sell to marketing teams? Do you sell to sales teams or performance teams, or maybe operations teams? Then look for specific trigger events that really apply to that person, that persona, industry, or company. So what do sales trigger really look like? Here are some examples of these valuable use cases, and where you can track them. First of all, new executive. This one may be obvious, but when a newly hired member of the C-suite comes in, they usually have ample authority and a desire to shake things up, since they don't have these traditions in their new company, and maybe they're looking to improve their value quickly, so they're more open to fresh ideas than most business leaders. It's a perfect time for your pitch. So try to track this type of event with Google Alerts for the company name, the company's press release pages, or LinkedIn. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a great tool. New job or role for current contact. If a satisfied customer assumes a different position in their company or just moves on to a new firm, reach out and see if they would like to bring your products or service along. If your offering made them look good in their last role, they will be eager to spread this gospel in their new one, right? So track this event with LinkedIn, especially LinkedIn Sales Navigator is really handy. New customer announcement and new product offering. So if your prospect has just landed a significant account, maybe like a major enterprise brand, enterprise client, they're about to have a lot more money rolling in, right? So reach out with a suggestion on how to use some of that revenue to their benefit. You can track this type of event with Google Alerts, press release pages, and industry news, etc. Lastly, back quarter, good quarter, industry changes. Is the company losing money fast? Do you sell a product or service that could reverse the trend? Is the company just bringing in so much revenue? Then they will be more receptive to projects that could help them continue down the path to success or accelerate their massive growth. Introduce yourself. So these are just a few examples of trigger events that you can use and create customized messages or templates to reach out accordingly. Anyone who's done prospecting here would have realized that oftentimes 70 to 80% of the email content is really the same, and 30% of the content needs to be more personalized. The aim here is to leverage these trigger events to make your content more relevant, personalized, and human to your prospects. Let's talk about sequences a little bit here. Here you can see an example of a sequence. And what you can see here is step one, an email goes out regarding a product demo that the prospect has requested, followed by a step that involves a task to follow up, then followed by another email that goes out after another 2 days. And you can also add in more steps as you see fit, step 4, 5, and so on, or you can increase the cadence between each of the sequence events. If you want to send multiple emails to a prospect in a row, assuming they don't answer the first one, consider teeing up an email campaign personalized to the prospect, choosing when they will send, adding personalization tokens for company and contact details, and just finishing off with some unique details to make your messages seem human and relevant. Then choose to have the messages stop when the prospect either responds to your email or books a meeting with you, whatever you prefer. You can set your sales cadence depending on the volume of your leads, your persona, and what you think is the best for them. And moving on to a few use cases for business-wide automation tools. So most salespeople don't really have the time to update information in CRM, even though they're often required to. Time-consuming tasks like manual data entry, setting reminders, assigning accounts, and monitoring opportunities really get in the way of developing real relationships and actually closing business with your customers. There's actually a much better way. There's a ton of ways that both marketing and sales generate leads for potential new business, but all too often these leads just fell into a holding pattern before being rotated or transferred to the right point of contact. These are really precious minutes, hours, and sometimes days wasted before your team can reach these hot leads. So this is something many salespeople struggle with because they don't know what their prospects are actually doing or interested in. You can actually create workflows to automatically rotate leads based on any criteria you set, triggered by actions like page view notifications, form submissions, guidebook downloaded, demo requests, and much more. These workflows really eliminate the time and efforts that goes into manually deciding who owns what, who owns which new lead, and they free you up to focus on actually building a relationship and closing business. And my recommendation here is to determine in what times you want to give sales or marketing these notifications and really set a stage. For example, you can set a notification for when a visitor leaves a page, leaves a pricing page. You can set a notification for marketing when someone submit a form to maybe a request for a demo, or for when someone submits a form to download the ebook, right? So you can even set a notification or enroll that visitor into a sequence when their form isn't completed. You enroll them into a sequence, you're reminding them, hey, you haven't finished your form yet. Here's the form. Don't forget about it. So really, it's up to you how you want to set the stage and cadence. But the point here is that try to eliminate all that guesswork out of the equation and really make sure that there's a smooth handoff and transition between sales and marketing. And then here's another example of a different sequence in which you can see there are 7 different steps with a combination of emails and tasks that are being sent to Sarah. Step 1, for example, you send an email invitation to download your latest ebook to a targeted list of contacts. Step 2, you send a thank you note to all the people that downloaded the offer. A few days later, you send a follow-up email to the list of people who downloaded the ebook, offering them a case study relating to that topic. Finally, when someone downloads that case study, your sales team will actually get a notification so that they can follow up with them in a timely manner. This person is now much more qualified and is likely farther down the buying process because they are they're already 3 steps down into the buying process. So now put yourself in your prospect's shoes for a moment. If this was you receiving information from a company about their products or services, wouldn't you prefer to get emails like this one over blast that you can tell they're just sending to thousands of other people? It feels more personalized, right? It feels like it is tailored to you and how you're interacting with that company. It makes you much more likely to trust that company and ultimately more likely to buy, right? The ways sequences can be used are also highly variable, and you want to use them to your advantage. But using sequences or templates itself is not enough, as with anything that's being automated or scaled. It's equally important to measure its efficiency. Think about your call to actions in your emails, and that will dictate the reply rate of your email sequences. If you want to keep your team laser focused on the best opportunities, use an automated lead scoring system as well. Lead scoring software uses demographic and behavioral data to determine how qualified a lead is, so salespeople know exactly which prospects to prioritize, or your team knows exactly which prospects to prioritize. There are a few things to consider before investing your time in this kind of tool. You actually need, as a startup, you need enough leads to score in the first place. Meaning that if you're actually looking for more leads, then if you need more leads in the first place, then it's probably better to focus on lead generation first. But having enough information is crucial as well. And it needs to be the right information, from lead capture forms and data enrichment tools to online behavior and email, social engagement. There's a ton of resources. There's a ton of sources to pull from, but you want to make sure you do have a central source of truth where you can have all this data come in and really understand what goes well and what doesn't go well, because you don't want to keep implementing the same strategy if it doesn't drive the desired outcomes you want. So finally, a lot has been said about sales automation, and I want to touch on marketing automation. So as you can guess from the name of it, marketing automation is when you really set up workflows automatically to send messages or do other marketing. Oops, 1 second. Or when you do other marketing tasks after another action, like subscribing to a newsletter is completed by prospect. We pretty much touched on that just now. And thousands of marketers today also rely on email marketing to generate results. They usually send blast email after blast email to their entire list of contacts, prospects, or customers, hoping the message resonates with some of them and gets them to purchase. But does it work? It's actually hard to tell. Maybe it works for you sometimes, but the reality of the situation is you're probably also wasting your time and money marketing to someone who may not be interested in what you're sharing. So you could be burning your list too, annoying your prospects and causing them to unsubscribe or jump ship, leaving you with no opportunity to market to them in the future. So from my standpoint, that doesn't really sound like an effective marketing program, or at least not one that I want to use. And this is why we leverage a marketing automation system like sequences. Marketing automation really allows you to nurture your leads through the entire buying process, just like the example we just walked through, delivering highly targeted, personalized messages that address their specific barriers to purchase. You can also use an insights tool that lives in your email. This will free up a ton of time. It pulls details from your prospect's CRM records, social media profiles, and companies, so you can see everything you need to send the perfect email at a single glance. Now, there's no need to open up a million tabs to discover what they tweet about, their job title, or even the last page they converted on. I have all this information at my disposal. I can determine what the next best course of action is for this prospect. For example, if they just viewed one of our pricing pages, I can either call the prospect, or the prospect can be automatically enrolled in a sequence where they're being sent an auto prospector email nurturing them through the process. But I have all this information at my disposal. I don't even have to go to LinkedIn, see like what they're into, what they recently tweeted about, what they posted about. So I have all this information, I have this data enriched at my disposal. And also for today's takeaway, I want you to remember these must-haves to largely automate and scale your processes. What I would recommend is automating with a clear call to action in your email. That call to action can involve a link to your calendar, to your maybe your sales team's calendar, whoever is in charge of the demo or sales process. Second is if someone has taken one action in a series, but not the next or fallen out, think about what kind of related content you can send through to put it back on their radar. Lastly is viewing specific content which demonstrates buying signals. Someone viewing your product or pricing pages is absolutely vital to relevant teams involved with that prospect or account. In this case, this could be your sales team or this could be your marketing team, but you need to make sure that notifications are being set at the right stage and at the right time once someone demonstrates buying signals. And that's the whole purpose of using these tools. But also, like anything, sales automation can become too much of a good thing. So you never want to actually automate every aspect of your sales process, because then it will feel completely robotic. As a human, you still want to add some critical and irreplaceable elements to your deals. So if you're blasting out, automated emails by the thousands or using an auto dialer, then you've crossed over to the dark side. But prospects usually don't take kindly to being pushed through this type of machine, so you never get high conversion rates with these tactics, and your company may potentially earn a not so desirable reputation that way. So with that, this also concludes today's webinar or this session. This is what we found killing sales productivity, right? Sales reps usually spend so much time or no time thinking and executing their sales cadences like a bot. So they're forced to spend so much time just thinking about what to do. They have no time or brain power to focus on the conversation taking place. But with the time you're freeing up from automation, it really allows you to execute and engage with your most important asset here, which is your customer or prospect. So you want to be able to automate and free up as much time as possible. And I just want to quickly touch on our offering, the Hubsoft startups offering here. If you're under $2 million in funding and not currently a customer, you can get up to 90% off our products in your first year, 50% off in your second, and 25% off ongoing. If you're $2 million to Series B, it starts at 50% off and then 25% off for the rest of your life with HubSpot. It's really easy to apply. Just visit hubspot.com/startups. It takes 2 minutes and selects the partner or selects the incubator, accelerator, or VC that you're affiliated with as your partner in your application. And that way you're eligible for the discount and you're eligible for whatever time you redeem it in. And again, our CRM is always free, so I would definitely start there. Also, another reminder is that after this session, my colleague Kelsey is going to lead another session focused on supercharging your brand awareness through social media. So definitely stay for the next session if you want to understand how you can leverage social media to really build that brand presence and awareness online. So we have some time left here, and I want to make sure that everyone's questions are answered.
With that, I do want to let everyone know and remind everyone, if you have any questions for Emily, please be sure to post your questions in the Whova platform so that we can ask them during the question and answer period that we are having now. But with that, I always like to have a quick question for our speakers of if there is one big takeaway that you want our attendees to take from today's session, what is your one piece of advice?
That's a great question. I would advise just make sure to look at your sales process or like your process right now holistically and understand which pieces of the process, which aspect of the process can be automated, and you can automate it through maybe sequences, maybe tracking, maybe workflows, automation. Like if there's any aspects of your business that can be automated, do it today. You don't want to wait until when your team is 10x and now you're like, okay, what do I how do I free up more time so that my team can perform better? Because your sales process is really your asset, and you can iterate, and this, you've already built it, so you want to make sure that you can keep iterating this process, so that everyone can follow as they join.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. For all of our attendees who are watching, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out throughout the platform. But with that, thank you, Emily. Oh, I think I might have one question here. Perfect. Thank you, Shelley. Shelley's asking, what makes email automation different from copying and pasting?
That's a great question. Okay, so 70 to 80% of the email content, if you are targeting like your prospects or customers, maybe 70 to 80% of your email content is pretty much the same. You obviously don't want to you want to avoid copying and pasting these messages every time you need to email your specific target audience. But what if you start building a larger database of target audience, right? You can still, when your database is still small, you can manage it, you can just copy and paste. But what if you have 20 different versions? Are you just going to go into Word doc and copy and paste the same message into email instead of just hitting the template button and pulling out the right template to use for the person you want to target? And this saves you time too, because it frees you up time to think about, okay, what part of this message can be personalized. So it really takes the consuming part out of it, and all you have to focus on is, okay, you look at this message and think which part of this message can really can be more human, and where can I add more touch to this. So that's, I hope that answered the question. But yeah, so definitely take advantage of email automations. Definitely avoid copying and pasting your messages over and over again.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. With that, one final call for questions. Just want to make sure that we stay close to time. But, and Shelley says thank you. So that's great. Thank you for your question, Shelley. With that, thank you, Emily, for all of your insight. Thank you to HubSpot for Startups. And thank you to all of our attendees for joining.